for the second. India have won the test match. India have won the series.
They're going to get back for two. India home. Lords goes wild.
Hello and welcome to the new episode of the 81 All Out podcast. This is your host, Siddhartha Vaidyanathan. I'm thrilled to welcome a dear friend of mine and a dear friend of the podcast who has been an inspiration to us from the day we started this podcast and publishing and everything else that we do here. Welcome back to Clayton Murzello, a doyen of journalism who recently completed 30 years as a full-time journalist and who, in my opinion, knows more about cricket in Mumbai and also sports in general in India than almost every journalist who is on the beat today. Welcome back, Clayton. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Sid, for that glowing little tribute you paid me. Very humbled by whatever you said. Thank you.
Of course. And every time anybody even mentions Mumbai or Mumbai cricket, I mean, you're the first name that comes to my mind. So there is, and I'm sure every other journalist and will agree that you are the go-to man when it comes to Mumbai cricket. So, one topic that I thought we should discuss is both a celebration as well as a looking back is about India's oldest living test captain who turned 90 in March, the Nari Contractor, who, is remembered for a number of reasons, but primarily for that one fateful day in 1962 when he suffered a near fatal injury thanks to a bouncer from Charlie Griffith in Barbados. But it is astounding how that one day that has come to define Nari Contractor did not deter the man, and how ever since 1962, I mean, he was of course a terrific cricketer. He could have gone on to play for many years for India. He was the Indian captain on that tour before when he suffered that injury. But the fact that he has not only did he survive that injury, which could have been absolutely fatal on any other day, but he went on to return to first class cricket. He went on to serve Indian cricket with such glowing distinction across the years, and remains one of the most influential figures, I would say. Whether it comes to the recruiting Frank Tyson for the famous Mafatlal scheme or the fast bowling scheme, whether it comes to his contributions to Mumbai cricket or everything that he has done for Indian cricket. And I think it's important to celebrate Nari Contractor and not just remember him as somebody who could have had a great career, but also as somebody who has done so much for Indian cricket. So, Clayton, I know you know Mr. Contractor really well. I know you've had a number of conversations with him. Can you, talk a bit in general terms as a big picture about what we should be remembering and celebrating about the man?
Yes, you are right. Nari Contractor is only remembered probably only for his injury, which he suffered in the West Indies. But there's more to the man, there's more to the cricketer, and there's more to the captain also. Why I say captain is because I've had a lot of conversations with him, informal and formal. And he very honestly told me that he was the first captain who actually started a team meeting where he encouraged even the junior most member of the team to speak up. And Mr. Contractor did it very well, explained this very well. He said, for example, in Calcutta, the dressing room had some sort of a wall. One section of the team sat in one part and the other section sat in the other part, the juniors. So he literally, or rather virtually, broke down that wall and said everyone must come together. Everyone must speak up at the team meeting, even the junior most member. So he could well be the first Indian captain to start a team meeting. So that's why I say captain.
Fascinating.
Cricketer, we know. We know about his classy batting, left-handed batting, opening the innings, or somewhere down, little lower down the order. But class player.
Clayton, you say we know, but actually, a number of our listeners are in the younger generation, in the younger bracket.
Yes.
So it will be good to talk a bit about his batting too. I mean, he was known as a very flamboyant left-handed batter, right?
Yeah, I remember a family friend of mine, Mr. Manor Rao, who came over to my house in the 80s, and I showed him a picture of Nari Contractor. And he said, even if you did not show me his face, I could make out this is Nari Contractor by his stance. So he had such a classical stance and such a well-known stance to cricket lovers in India and Bombay. Apart from the stance and things like that, he scored runs for India. He scored battling runs for India, as the Lord's Test match of 1959 will reveal. He batted with broken ribs and got out, breathless actually. So
Against
he's
Brian
a
Statham
performer.
and Fred Truman, right?
Yeah, and Fred Truman, yes. And that feat, should not be forgotten, even though that did not eventuate in 100. It was an 80 odd innings, I think. And he very proudly says that Keith Miller, the famous Australian all-rounder, was writing for one of the newspapers in England, and he wrote that Nari Contractor deserves a Victoria Cross for his effort yesterday. So in the midst of all this, let's not forget Nari Contractor was a very good batsman for India, who later became
Fantastic.
captain.
You have written quite a bit about Nari Contractor over the years. You wrote a very touching piece when he turned 85, and also this year you again similarly wrote a touching piece about him. And one of the themes around Nari Contractor that you always mention is how he's a child of destiny, and how every stage of his life has been, it is almost as if it was predestined. So, can you, talk a bit about that, both in his early years as well as in his playing days?
Yeah, I'm fortunate to know a lot about Nari Contractor, but that's only because he has been very good to me, and he finds me comfortable to speak with. So we've had a lot of conversations on his career. In fact, one of my aims is to do a book on Nari Contractor, and I feel his story should be told to the world. Uh, just more than what I write, and an odd magazine writing a feature on him. His story is a very important story in world cricket, I feel. And yes, the injury will be a big part of his story, because whenever a batsman gets hit on the head, at least cricket followers from my generation and the earlier generation think about Nari Contractor. His name just
Yeah,
springs to mind.
especially after Philip Hughes, when Philip Hughes
Yes.
sadly died on the cricket field, Nari Contractor was the
Yeah.
first name that came to mind.
Yes, yes. And whether the book comes out or no, I can relate a few things which Nari Contractor told me about this injury, and about his batting, and about his leadership. Uh, he's not the one who will praise his own efforts, but I managed to get something of him. So let me know what you want to talk about first.
No, I mean, I think we can start with his birth. I think you have written how his birth itself played a huge role in his career.
Yes, basically, what he tells me is his mother went to her family home in Gujarat, and was on the way. She got labor pains, and incidentally, the motorman of the train was his uncle, his mother's brother. So he stopped the
Okay.
train, took her to a hospital where she gave birth to Nari. So basically, he's born in Gujarat, but he was brought up in Mumbai. But
Okay.
his official birthplace is Gujarat, and that is how he qualified to play for Gujarat. Because in those days, you had to either be born in a place or living there to qualify for a Ranji Trophy team. That is
Yeah, you
how
had to be
Nari
domiciled
Contractor.
for a number of years. Yeah.
Yes,
Hmm.
that is how he played for Gujarat. And actually, he was on the verge of getting into the Mumbai team. So the story is that in one of the practice games for the season against a touring team, Nari was not picked, and this disappointed him. In the meantime, there was an official I think it was the captain of the Gujarat team who was touring Mumbai at that time and offered him the slot to play for Gujarat, which he initially refused. But when he was dropped from the second game, he decided that he'll take up the offer. And he straight away went to Gujarat. And it's a very interesting story. The captain of the team reported ill just because he wanted Nari Contractor to play his first game. So you could call that destiny also. That chap was there in Bombay. He saw a disappointed Nari Contractor. He urged him to join Gujarat, which he did not succeed at first, but he eventually got him. So if you could call that destiny, you can put that into his bracket.
And he intentionally sat out to get Contractor in the team.
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay,
Yeah, and that's how his first class journey started, because Nari Contractor played all his cricket in Mumbai. He represented the Bombay University team also, which was one step away from Ranji Trophy. So you can imagine how close he was to getting that Ranji Trophy cap.
So did he ever play for Mumbai?
No, he did not play Ranji Trophy for Mumbai.
Okay, so he continued.
But
He played all his first class cricket was in Gujarat. Yeah.
In Gujarat, yes. Yeah, and the Duleep Trophy for West Zone. That is where he was in the same team as the Mumbai players.
Interesting. So going on to the the 1962 tour when he was captain, there was fate and destiny very much in play there too, right?
Oh, all throughout. Because if you come to that match, that fatal match, virtually fatal match actually, he was not supposed to play that.
This was not a test match. This was a tour game, right, against Barbados.
This was a colony game, and Nari Contractor that was supposed to be Nari Contractor's off game. He was not supposed to play that game, but there were injuries in the team, and he feels that certain players were projecting that they were unfit when they were fit. So that was a sad situation. So he had to play that match.
Yes, the innings. Yeah. So when you say this happened, yes, continue. Yeah.
Yes. So the thing is that Dilip Sardesai was his partner, and when Charlie Griffith bowled initially, they did not find him quick at all. But then, after the luncheon interval, Charlie Griffith was a different bowler, is what Nari Contractor says. And in that over, in which he got hit, there also destiny played its role. Firstly, or maybe one of the events was that someone opened a window in the dressing room. And when that window opened, it created a square in Nari's mind, a black square. And it affected him. But he told himself that let's play this ball and we'll fix that later. But that ball was the injury ball. Now let me take you back before that delivery. The lead up to that delivery was Rusi Surti was upset that Charlie Griffith was chucking. So he shouted at Nari, a fellow Parsi, by the way, that this bowler is chucking. So Nari got upset and said, "Why are you telling me? Tell the umpire." Don't tell me. So Nari's concentration was affected by that too. Then, I think the previous ball before that killer ball, Conrad Hunt dropped a sitter. Now, Conrad Hunt was known to be a very, very good fieldsman. But he dropped a sitter. Now, had he got Nari Contractor out, that injury would not have taken place. That ball wouldn't have been bowled. So this is where destiny comes in again.
There is even a report that said apparently this could be, of course, apocryphal, but apparently Dilip Sardesai told Nari Contractor, "Fast my foot," while talking about Charlie Griffith.
Yes.
Have you heard that
Yes.
too?
Yes. I heard that. Yes.
Yeah.
But then,
So
but
he
that was
wasn't
true.
that quick before lunch. Yeah.
He wasn't that quick before lunch. That even Nari Contractor acknowledges. So when he got hit, I mean, that's a very gory chapter. Chandu Borde was with him. Chandu Borde, he held Chandu Borde's hand so tightly that Chandu Borde told me that I thought my hand would get paralyzed. I would get paralyzed with that grip. And there was blood running from Nari Contractor's ears, and that's never a good sign. But let me take you back, even when Nari Contractor was picked as an opener for India, it was because Vinu Mankad did not turn up for a game. So Destiny had his role to play there again. He got picked because Vinu Mankad did not land up.
So, and when in this fateful game, Nari Contractor was opening, or was he batting in the middle order?
I think he was opening.
Opening.
Yeah, he was opening the innings.
So,
and then
is it true also that there is another story about Frank Worrell warning Nari Contractor about Charlie Griffith, even like a few days before?
Okay, yes, that's true. I'll read out from an interview which Nari Contractor gave me a few years ago, which was published in the Backspin magazine. I'll read it out. We were at a cocktail party which the West Indies call Sundowner, when Frank Worrell said to me that there was a bowler in the Barbados side called Charlie Griffith, and he's a chucker. And because we had so many injuries before the game, he suggested that it would be better to get out than get hit. Frank said Griffith was crude and impolite. He cited an example of him hitting an 18-year-old batsman on the head, and he didn't even apologize to him. So Frank told us to take care.
Yeah, so it was almost as if he had been prepared for it in multiple ways. So you have also written about how the immediate aftermath of that injury, and how when he had to go to the hospital, and when people like Frank Worrell, the famous journalist K.M. Prabhu from Times of India, and all of them were there. They donated blood. And,
yes.
That must have been a really, really nervous time.
Yes, it was. I mean, very nervous, very depressing. There was no hope. And even Charlie Griffith suffered a lot of depression. Apparently, in his book, he says he was at the hospital every night, hoping and praying for Nari's recovery. Because imagine what his mind must have been.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. And also Frank Worrell, forever remembered for being the person there, praying outside the room, donating blood. And I think in Calcutta, they still remember him. And there is a blood donation drive that is named after him still.
Yes, and Nari has been to even Barbados for some blood donation activity in the name of Frank Worrell.
Yeah. Now, the fascinating thing for me is how Nari Contractor reacted to all this. He never played the victim, right? And that really remains quite a huge credit to him.
Yes, he did not go about mourning. He took his blows. Blows came in the way of not getting a chance to play for India again, which Nari says it was a mixture of caution. People were scared that he would get hit again. And Nari also felt that, there were some people who were blocking his entry back. So it was a mixture of the safety and probably politics, you would call it.
No, before you go on, I want to bring in the time that, again, a very touching bit in one of your pieces you've written, when he came back to India. I mean, after surviving in the West Indies, after surviving and going through the hospitals there, he came back to India. And that moment where he was in a hospital in Vellore, where his doctor forced him to walk 300 meters or something to the room, right?
Yes, yes. Nari was in his hospital room, and he was struggling. There's no doubt about that. And one day the nurse comes in and says, Dr. Chandy would like to talk to you. So Nari said, okay. Nari expected the doctor to come to his room, but the doctor did not come, and the nurse said, no, he wants you to walk to his cabin. So Nari said, how is that possible? I can't walk. So he said, no, he insists. So anyway, Nari made his way to the doctor's chambers, and the doctor was happy to see him. And one of the first things he asked Nari is, when are you going to start playing cricket? And Nari told him, this is a bigger bouncer than Charlie Griffiths. I mean, I cannot see properly. I cannot walk properly. I'm almost crumbling. How do you expect me to play cricket? So I think this is where everything turned, and Dr. Chandy told him that, Nari, if you don't play cricket, you will become a vegetable. Do you want to become a vegetable? If you want to become a vegetable, then don't play cricket. So I think this is where everything turned, and Nari started getting the belief that he could, start this game. And when he went back to Bombay, it was in the monsoons, because the monsoons had set in by then in 1962. He put on a solar hat and he started baby steps at the CCI. And he was so scared that even if someone opened an umbrella, he used to get a start. So that was the toll the injury took on him. But he made it. I mean, this is the remarkable thing about the Nari Contractor story, that he actually had to start cricket from scratch, because that injury had such a great impact on him. And also there was a fear of him getting hit again, but the doctor explained to him that your operation took longer because we put a mesh inside, and that will protect your head. So even if you get hit, nothing is going to happen. So he was backed by all these positive factors, and he made that recovery, and he made it back to first class cricket, which is quite remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was also, what I find remarkable is that, and also in a way, coincidental, is that after Nari Contractor was hit and after his career ended, the Nawab of Pataudi took over the Indian captaincy
Yes.
in the West Indies. And the Nawab of Pataudi himself had suffered injury and tragedy in terms of his eye, and how he had to play. Almost all his cricket with just one eye. And here you had Nari Contractor, whose career was over because he was hit. So there is a lot of struggle there on both sides.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not that Nari Contractor was a non-performer at domestic level after the injury. He performed at the domestic level. And he really fancied his chances of going to Australia in 67, 68. And he tells me that he never actually experienced sheer disappointment after that injury. But he was very disappointed not to get the call for Australia, because he thought he had done well in domestic cricket to merit a place.
And was that the time when Ghulam Ahmed apparently said that what if he gets hit again?
No, Ghulam Ahmed, I think Ghulam Ahmed was very genuine in his concern, because he was manager on that 1961-62 tour, and he had seen what Nari went through. And Ghulam Ahmed called Nari Contractor's wife, the late Dolly, asking him, why is Nari, playing cricket? And, because I have experienced what all he went through in the West Indies, and I'm really scared for him. And he could well have been genuine. But Nari Contractor's wife, all she could say was that, look, cricket is his passion and no one can stop him from playing cricket. So that's how it is. I mean, today we talk about modern players being, gritty and passionate and things like that. There's no better example than passion than that.
How does Nari Contractor look back on that return? Does he think that it was one of the best things for him to come back?
Nari Contractor is not very expressive in that sense. As I said, he doesn't like talking about himself, so I wouldn't know. But all what I feel is that he should be extremely proud for what he achieved. I mean, coming back to playing domestic cricket is an achievement after that injury. And I don't think Nari Contractor took himself very seriously. He just went about his work.
Yeah, I mean, it's a remarkable though. It's a remarkable story that a man who was literally on his, deathbed, and who was probably like a few seconds away from dying, has actually made a return to first class cricket, which is a very high level of cricket to be playing.
Yeah, and his full life has been laced with commitment to the cause, commitment to the present objective. For example, when he realized that he stood no chance to playing for India again, he told his employers that look, I normally leave for office practice at 2:30. I'm not going to leave for practice now. I'm going to stay in office because there's no chance of me playing for India. I might as well concentrate on office work. I mean, how many people will do that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, remarkable.
That's the measure of the man. Yeah.
And his employer was Mahatlal, right?
When that happened, he was with Tatas.
Okay, and then he moved to Mahatlal for a long career.
Yes. And even I've been very fortunate actually. I've been my newspaper Midday had a pace competition in the early 2000s, and we had appointed Nari Contractor as part of the advisory board. And I was so fortunate to sit in the same conference room as Nari Contractor, deciding how to go about organizing this event. And there were other prominent cricketers also in that committee. And I could see, not that the other players were less committed to the cause, but I could see how prepared Nari Contractor was. He used to come with all his files, all his notings, and what more can I say than great? I mean, that was great commitment, and he showed that same commitment to every cause he was involved in. I'm sure about that.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I was reading about was after the whole injury happened in '62, there was of course, it was an international incident, and people were talking about it, and there was also calls to ban the bouncer, just as there were calls after Philip Hughes's death, and there have been calls through the years to ban the bouncer. But it was fascinating how Nari Contractor said that if people want to ban the bouncer, let them ban it for their own reasons. Don't bring me into it. And don't say we are banning the bouncer because of Nari Contractor, because I do not want to be the reason why you're banning the bouncer. Yeah.
Correct.
And he could have easily said that, he could have given all these reasons why it happened. He could have spoken about Charlie Griffith's chucking. He did not. In fact, even I think till now, he maintains Charlie Griffith did not chuck that ball.
Let's put it this way. He doesn't call Charlie Griffith a chucker.
Yeah.
He said others were there who saw everything. Let them judge. But he wouldn't call Charlie Griffith a chucker.
Yeah, and I think that's admirable because he could easily have done, and people would have believed him because of what he suffered. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a very close observer, like he observed Charlie Griffith when Charlie Griffith came to India in 66, 67. Nari Contractor, I think, was playing first class cricket till then. Yes, he could have been playing first class cricket because he was hopeful of a chance to go to Australia the following season. So Nari Contractor tells me that Charlie Griffith was not quick on that tour at all. Means he saw two different Charlie Griffiths, one in the West Indies in 62 and one in India in 66, 67. They were completely different.
Did he meet Charlie Griffith at that time and talk to him?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't
because
think so.
that would have been a great story had that happened.
Yeah, great tabloid story.
Exactly. Yeah. So now, of course, this is a very important part because Nari Contractor, the name Nari Contractor seems to start and end at 1962 for many people, but that is not at all true because as we have
Correct.
just discussed, he returned to play first class cricket in a remarkable show of, talent and grit. And after that, for several years, made such a huge contribution to both Mumbai cricket and Indian cricket. So let us talk about that,
Yes.
about this 80s and 90s and what he really brought to Indian cricket.
Yeah, Nari Contractor was involved in the BCA Mafatlal pace bowling scheme, and he was a high-ranking officer at Mafatlal's. And Mumbai cricket was going through a lean patch. They had not won the Ranji Trophy for a while. This was in the 80s, late 80s, and they were concerned that we have batsmen, but we don't have enough bowlers. So what is to be done? So they brainstormed and they came up with the idea that we have a bowling scheme. And since Mafatlal was sponsors of that bowling scheme, Nari Contractor was involved deeply. And I think it was Ravi Shastri who suggested at a press conference to Mafatlal that if you're getting a bowling expert, he should be a foreigner.
Okay.
You should get a thorough expert. That is when the idea of getting a foreign expert started. And they went looking out for one. Nari Contractor was sent by Mafatlal to England to search a fast bowling coach. He met a few prominent names, but there is where that thoroughness of that gentleman comes in. He said, I'm not interested in knowing what you can do. I want it in writing. I want a blueprint. Can you give me a blueprint? None of those people who he approached could give him a blueprint as to how they would go about their job. And that was paramount for Nari Contractor. He wanted a clear, pathway as to what they will do, which they couldn't give him. So he returned to India without a coach. And then someone told him about Frank Tyson. And Frank Tyson and he knew each other since 1959. So he contacted Frank Tyson. Frank Tyson was not willing to come. Although Frank Tyson was deep into coaching in Australia. And somehow he convinced Frank Tyson to come to India for this scheme. And that scheme has played a very, very important role in Indian cricket. In fact, look at your last bowling coach also, Paras Mamre. Paras Mamre was a product of that scheme. So not only did Frank Tyson help produce more fast bowlers in Mumbai, he also helped produce coaches. And he had a lot to do with, starting courses at the NCA in Bangalore, initiating them. So Frank Tyson has played a big role in Indian cricket. In fact, I feel, and I'm not sure whether it is done, but if it's not done, it should be done, that there should be a picture of Frank Tyson in the BCCI offices and the Mumbai Cricket Association office. As a mark of respect for that.
Frank Tyson has been forgotten because when we talk about Indian fast bowling, the Dennis Lilly gets mentioned because of his association with MRF Pace Academy. But I think
Frank Tyson
played an equally, undeservedly so. But in Mumbai, I think Frank Tyson's influence played a huge role as well, and that needs to be equally recognized. Yeah.
Correct. I go back to individuals again. Salil Ankola, who was a national selector. His career was revived by the Tyson scheme. Amol Muzumdar, who's in charge of women's cricket. Even Amol Muzumdar profited from the bowling scheme because he used to come and bat there. Sairaj Bautule is also a product of the Tyson scheme.
Rishikesh
look at the
impact, also, right?
Yes, because he's one of the batters there. So look at the impact the Tyson scheme has had. And we must mention the contribution of Makarand Vengankar, who was chief coordinator for the scheme.
Yes.
It's a vital contribution. And as I said, at least the MCA should have a photograph of Tyson on their walls.
Yes, and we must remember that bringing Tyson to India was a big contribution of Nari Contractor.
Yes, because he was not satisfied with the coaches he met there. And also he played a good hand in convincing Frank Tyson to come to India. And then also Nari Contractor was involved in the TRDO scheme for the West Zone.
Yes.
Yeah. So
okay.
I mean, he's such a man that he will never refuse to do anything for cricket. Even if you call him as chief guest for something, Nari Contractor is ever willing to do anything for this game. I have had a personal relationship with him and I have had a professional relationship with him. And I have yet to come across someone who I have interviewed or who I have just interviewed for a reaction if someone passed away or something like that. And I think there's the only guy who actually asked me this question each time I finish my conversation. Is there anything else you would like to know? I mean, This is gold. This is, sheer gold.
Yes, and Clayton, it is not just you who has been, of course, who has such a close relationship with him. I myself have that personal experience when I was a junior reporter and, talking to him, he would ask the same thing to me.
Here you go.
Probably talking to me for the first time. So, it is not just you. That is his character.
Yes. I mean, such a lovely man.
And also, I think we must mention that in this day and age of, PR and very sort of cliched responses, Nari Contractor is a man who never held back. He spoke what he thought.
Yes. And until recently, his memory also was very good. Means he could remember even the performances and the specialities of first class cricketers. For example, I called him for a reaction when Hoshi Amroriwala passed away. And he said, Hoshi Amroriwala was
Can you give us an introduction about who he was? Yeah.
Hoshi Amroriwala was a very prominent Mumbai Ranji Trophy player.
Okay.
So when he passed away, I called Nari for a reaction and he told me that he was a better player than myself.
Humbling. Yeah. And very rare will a cricketer say that, especially an international captain.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I said. He doesn't take himself too seriously. He knows that, it's just a game at the end of the day. And whatever, the plaudits have come his way, he's been very humble and grateful for all that. There's no mean, element in his body. He's always there for cricket.
Yeah. Do you think Indian cricket has done enough for him? And how do you think there are ways in which one can celebrate him better? And I was wondering whether the India West Indies series should maybe carry his name at some point or something. You never know.
Yeah, I don't think Nari Contractor has not been recognized. He has been recognized, but the board can do a lot more. I mean, for example, in their BCCI awards, if they appoint good followers of keep track of courageous innings in the domestic structure, and give an award, the Nari Contractor Award for the most courageous innings or the most courageous cricketing feat. Because it could be a bowler also. A bowler could run through a side with a leg injury, something like that. I think those type of honors have to be introduced in cricket. And call it the Nari Contractor Award for Courage.
But that is a bit of a slippery slope now, because you don't want people also playing when they're injured just for the sake of recognition.
Yeah, that's why I said you have to have the right people to monitor all this.
Yeah.
But now with television and all these things, it can be done.
Yeah.
It can be done and go beyond what you see also.
Yeah.
You have
Also,
match
now I'm
referees.
thinking that maybe you have so many of these coaches. Maybe, if you have an award for the best bowling coach, or the best something like that, then maybe you can recognize it as a Nari Contractor award because of his contribution. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yes. And also Frank Tyson. There should be some way to recognize Frank Tyson.
Oh yes, sure. Yeah. I feel like Frank Tyson, Frank Worrell, Nari Contractor, they're all they're all intertwined in many ways. Yeah. Yeah. So when is the book coming? Hopefully there is the book. You're saying hopeful, but I'm very hopeful that it will happen.
I'm quite hopeful because I've got a book project on at the moment. So I'm quite hopeful of starting work on it after I finish this one in September. And it's something which I really want to do. I think Indian cricket, Nari Contractor deserves a book. And I know his life story, and I don't think he'll have a problem with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would love to. I mean, I think it would be a valuable historic documentation of.
It won't be a big book, but it would be a nice little tribute to him.
Yeah, exactly. His story, as of now, is limited to just one line about him getting a head injury in 1962. But I think we should move beyond that and recognize that there was so much more. There is so much more to the man, and that his contribution is not limited to. And even actually, his name rarely comes up when people talk about Indian captains, because of course his captaincy career got cut short. But so what? There is still a lot to be said about his captaincy and his batting and his cricketing knowledge. Yeah.
Yes. No, and he was a good captain. He was a caring captain. I remember, he telling me a story about Vasant Ranjani, the fast bowler. He said in one game, we came off for lunch or tea or whatever, and Ranjane was just sitting in the corner and kind of brooding. So he said, Vasant, what's the matter? And Vasant Ranjane did not have to say much. He just pulled off his socks and his feet were bleeding. Apparently, Ranjane had only one pair of shoes. And those shoes were not very comfortable, as the bleeding revealed. And Nari Contractor couldn't do much, but he felt for him.
Yeah.
So these are the times, the Indian cricketers of yesteryears faced, and we should never forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now it is almost impossible to imagine a day when a first-class cricketer has to go through that. But yes, it is important to keep in mind.
Which is good for the new generation. We are all happy for that. But at the same time, let's not forget what our cricketers went through. And the need to recognize that.
Yes, and the same thing with fast bowling. Now we have the riches in fast bowling. With the best, perhaps the best fast bowling attack in the world. But at the same time, it is there for a reason. And Frank Tyson, Dennis Lillee, Nari Contractor, all played their part. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Wonderful. So, and also, by the way, Nari Contractor, now that you say Gujarat, the Ahmedabad Stadium can also do something to honor Nari Contractor, because
they can. I don't know what they have in their museum, because they have some museum filled with pictures and stuff like that. I wonder. I think they should have a picture of him, as he was a Gujarat captain too. But they can do something special.
That definitely.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think this was great, Clayton. I think it gives us a good idea of Nari Contractor, and much more than what we usually get to hear in the mainstream. And it generally, I think we have we need to do much more to remember these former cricketers and captains. And I think this was
Exactly.
great. And it's also great that you are looking to take this further with the book and to document it in written form. And I think it'll be a valuable
Thank you.
resource. And hopefully that comes through, and hopefully we can get you on again when that book is published. And in true Nari Contractor style, is there anything else that you would want to add?
So I think we have covered everything. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this
Okay,
opportunity.
that is great. Oh, no, not at all. Anytime. You have been on this podcast, I think the 4 or 5 times, maybe more. But yes, every time you come on, there is always something new that I learn, something, new insights and new knowledge that I gain. And I'm very grateful for that. Thank you. Yes, I hope all the listeners enjoyed this episode. And we will be back with you, hopefully talking about not just the games that are happening, but also a bit of history, a bit of timeless pieces, talking about cricketers, talking about previous series and things that we can learn from the past. That is something that we have done at 81 All Out quite regularly, and we hope to continue that. Please
Thank you.
visit our website at 81allout.com. You can tweet us at 81allout, and you can also send us your feedback. Please subscribe to our podcast, and please also leave a rating and a review. It helps people find us. So yes, thank you, and we look forward to joining you in about 10 days' time. Good night and take care.
India have won the series.
They're going to get back for 2. India home. Lords goes wide.